That's our code word for recording. So just typical. So look, welcome everyone, and thank you for coming. Thank you so much for joining me, Susan, Peter, and Tony. It is truly, truly an honor and a privilege, especially for those tuning in the middle of the night, and you made such an effort to come on. I'm going to talk a little bit about myself and a little bit about what I would like to talk about today. And then we're going to go to the one and only Tony Stockwell and go through all the panelists, the guests here. So we all have, like, we're all mediums and we're all in that kind of spiritual field. But what's really interesting, we all will have a completely different understanding. We will all work in it in a completely different way. So how I work with mediumship and things like that, my background is actually science in IT. So for anyone who knows me, I am probably the most analytical, logical person you can meet. And I always really struggled trying to get the balance of, like, you know, mediumship and connecting with my guides and meditation and the really analytical, skeptical side of me. So whenever I get people that say I'm skeptical, I'm going, wonderful, because I can kind of relate that little bit more to them, you know. So I'm a therapist as well, a clinical and spiritual therapist, and I'm a teacher, but I specialize in hypnotherapy and regression therapy, because I love the way it can bring that kind of that monkey mind to a really quiet space really, really quickly. And I use hypnosis to explore trance states. How deep can we go into that kind of really beautiful place? You know, how deep can we go into the memories? How can we access all those hidden, unblocked memories? And also then using trance, using hypnosis, how can we connect with our beautiful guides and all the inspirers that we have? So the panelists here are the living inspirers, which is really wonderful, and we're going to hear from them all. And I'm really, really big into, my belief system is a little bit wacky, so apologies, don't want to offend anyone. I don't really believe in the afterlife, I have to say. I don't believe it's after. I believe it's now. I don't think there would be this really wonderful, incredible place of wisdom and information and healing, and it's just unobtainable. Guys, you have to live all of this life, you have to pay your bills, you have to go to work, you have to get up in the morning, and then when you die, all of these wonderful things are here for you. I believe that it's just a misconception that we've had for quite some time, and I really want to see a future for everyone where it's more integrated, and I feel that they want it to be integrated too, because we're all mediums, absolutely. We're all born with the same capabilities. And some of us may choose to go on to do, you know, readings and mediumship, but we are all mediums. So we're all capable of accessing this wisdom and information and healing now. And this is what I believe. And some people may understand it as like the veil, and the veil in between worlds, and this veil kind of thinning, which is wonderful. And there's many, many different reasons for all of that, which I'm going to try not go on a tangent about. So many of you may have heard of Dolores Cannon, the late and lovely inspired Dolores Cannon. And like many wonderful people around the world who I've been inspired by, she is one of them. She developed a technique called QHHT, quantum healing hypnosis technique. And through this technique, people get hypnotized and they start accessing hidden, unlocked memories in their brain, where they can access like other kind of planetary systems or unified spaces in the cosmos and really incredible things like this. So this is my passion, if I'm honest with you. It's about blending and working in that energy and that space. When I first started this kind of spiritual journey, I had a kidney transplant in 2015, and my husband unfortunately died the same week, and it really triggered that kind of activation and that awakening for me. And since then, I've been a little bit, one-sided, really just about how deep can we explore this incredible place. So I guess I'm going to really summarize and keep it to two things today. So one, anyone who knows me knows that I get really triggered about people who are working unethically around the world, because unfortunately, like any I guess unregulated service around the world. It can be open for interpretation. But I think an awful lot of people are doing themselves a disjustice. I really, really do. Because the amount of people who get the most incredible, knowledgeable wisdom from their own soul, from their own spirit, and yet they're saying, I'm channeling this from ascended masters, or I'm channeling from, and yes, possibly they are. I've no doubt that they're getting help and healing, but the amount of incredible information that we get from our own soul that's being missed and, you know, misplaced, and you're disempowering yourself. So even this morning, as I sat in meditation, I was like saying to my guides, oh, come on, you know, what am I going to talk about? How are you going to help me? And I got a really strong sense of, well, all the information is there within you, and all the information is there within your own spirit. And this is just something I want to leave all of you with today, that through meditation, or through just a quiet mind, or through hypnosis, or whatever way you want to call it, there's so much incredible inspiration and guidance within your own soul that's waiting to come out. And then the second thing, I guess I'd like to touch on the journey of a soul. So many times people turn away from mediumship, or they turn away from spirit, or they turn away from their guides, because they kind of feel like, well, this tragedy's happened in my life, and why has it happened? Or are they with me? Are they not helping me? I guarantee they are. Like, they are here to help you, and they're here to inspire you, and they're here to lead you. I do believe in soul contracts. I believe that we're all here for a very particular, specific reason. I believe a lot of times that we choose some things, tragedies in our life, for the betterment of ourselves, or the planet, or our family, or that person. So I do believe a lot of this is chosen. So in fact, they're helping us by enabling these things. And there's so many questions out there, isn't there? Like, why do people commit suicide? Or why are people born sick? Why do people die early? All of these questions that can make people turn away from all that love and support and wisdom. So I'm going to suggest to you that actually it's probably chosen. It's probably decided before you've ever come here. So anyone who's heard of the works of Michael Newton, Life Between Lives, this is something that I specialize in, because the amount of information and understanding that I've gotten myself as a person from facilitating these sessions for people, and guiding them into these memories of who they are before they're born. And it's the same personality, in short, like not always. Like, for example, we could take some atrocities throughout history. It doesn't mean they're going to be an atrocious person through every lifetime. But we do have our soul and our personality tends to stay the same. Isn't that absolutely incredible? So we do live on, like we live on, our soul lives on, our personality in certain ways lives on, and our loved ones lived on. So the journey of a soul, if we take it, when does it start? So it might start at its evolution. It might start with that spark when we're created, which is a big question I can't possibly even begin to answer. And then perhaps you may choose to incarnate into this lifetime or other lifetimes to help, or to learn, or to benefit the planet or the animals. There's multiple reasons. And then we die the physical death, and then we go into home, or this etheric body, or this spiritual body. And all of this then is another place of learning and development and understanding. So I don't see it as linear. I don't see it as we're born, we live, and we die, because that could be quite a depressing concept for many people who mightn't have the most fantastic time. I see it all as just this whole convoluted circle of growing and learning, and multiple dimensions and parallel lives. And I'm not a physicist, so I can't even begin to explain. And if we had Brian Cox here today, he could probably absolutely do a wonderful job of it. In a meditation one time, I was asking Spirit to explain to me, and I just got this most convoluted picture I can't even begin to articulate. So I said, okay, don't even bother trying to explain. But I do really believe that it's this like continuing cycle of growth and learning and wisdom, a bit like a hamster in a little ball. That's the way I see it. So I'm very aware I'm talking an awful lot. So I welcome any questions. If any of you have any, we'll get right to the end about things like the afterlife or life between lives or memories. I have to say I studied psychotherapy and cognitive behavioral therapy, and it didn't really fulfill my soul. And when I came across regression therapy, I got really excited, because it's like reading a book. For every time I facilitate a session, I learn something new about the world or the veil that we don't really know. I learned something new about the person. I learned something new about the history. I don't even need to read a history book. So it's really interesting, fascinating area to be in. I've talked before about the trauma, how we can carry physical and emotional traumas through from other lifetimes. But to be honest, that's a conversation I'll park for another day. So I'm just going to leave you on the thought that they are there with us. They are. I know that. I've had my fair share of tragedies, as I know a lot of you guys have too, and they are there. So we could feel them. You can hear them. You can see them. You can communicate with them. It's not something necessarily that comes overnight. Sometimes it takes a little bit of time, patience, and dedication. But it's interesting that we're joined here by four respective mediums and teachers. And I really want to leave you with that. We are all mediums, and we can all do this. And we all have this power and inspiration within us to help, to heal, to access, if that makes sense. Hope that makes sense. Have I lost everyone? I might well have lost it.
We're all listening. We're all listening.
Yeah, okay.
It's interesting because, and I know you're moving to Tony, but it's interesting because, and I know Triona, and I know her work, and some of the things she says, I don't fully agree with, but hey, that doesn't matter because it all works. But anyway.
And this is the wonderful thing, yeah, because we're all going to have our different thoughts and processes, and we're all not going to agree. And I love that, absolutely love it. Okay, and we're going to move to Tony. Tony, thank you for coming today. It's such a pleasure to see you.
Thank you for asking me. Thank you. Nice to see you. And would you like just to talk about anything, or would you like to ask me a question?
I think, Tony, that just talk about from where you come from, you know, to see the way Triona was saying, from the scientific, logical into the educated in hypnotherapy and stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, my point of view is fickle, very much so, because it changes all the time. So what I'm comfortable with one week, I'll be then discussing something with a new group or whatever, and then I'll go, oh, now this is interesting. And so I like to teach very much because I never really know what I'm going to say until I say it. So I'm developing concepts, he says, like I'm really intelligent. But I'm developing concepts as they feel right to me, and I'm trying to express for a group. So I've learned, I think, more about what I think I know just by discovering it as I'm talking for an enormous amount of time. So I was taking a course yesterday for a group in Canada, and I was saying, this 3-day course isn't just about me speaking, but then it dawned on me, I could speak for 3 days. Quite literally. If you just gave me water, I would just literally talk for 3 days. So where am I coming with it all? It's changed enormously since I first began. And so I always tell people how long I've been doing it. I'm like one of these old ladies at the bus stop. Guess how old I am? 87. So I feel like a bit like her, but I've been doing it for 35 years. Literally all the time. 35 years of my life I have been working in this field, and it's an interesting 35 years, no question, because when I first started, much of my belief was that which was told to me by those who trained me, helped me, spoke at different events, etc. And so if you'd asked me then, you know, what's the afterlife like, I think it would have looked like heaven from the Bible. You know, it would have been, you know, we live here in this plane, earth plane, and then we progress to the heavenly spheres, and on the way you get high-fived by an angel or something like that. And of course it's changed enormously, and you know, like much like you guys, I now realize the spirit world probably exists just there, just at the side of our minds, just there. And so it exists all around us. I'm aware not just of the recently departed now, but also other beings. So some you might describe as ancestors, some of lives once lived, some of star beings, and this kind of thing. And I increasingly, because I think predominantly I'm a trance medium in the closet, you see. So I came out of one closet years ago, and now I'm just about to break through for another one. But pretending I am more of a trance medium than anything else, although I'm known for everything else. And it's through the trance blend that I'm literally coming out of trance, going into trance, and I'm detecting a totally different vibe, a totally different feeling. But again, don't run around with the idea that he's talking about aliens. I don't know what I'm saying. I just know that these are most incredible, soulful, light beings that just don't feel like us, but just amazing and kind and loving and here and sharing and with wisdoms to be spoken. But I'm yet to decide what that is. So is it that I'm accessing an angelic field, maybe, or beings that have never touched this earth for whatever reason? I just think it's bigger than maybe I can comprehend at the moment. And one of my favorite things to say, because I like saying it really, was a good friend of mine, and I think you would know her also, the late Jill Harland, who was one of my favorite mediums. I know, Susan, you know Jill. She was an amazing, wonderfully accurate and funny medium. But she went along once, years before, to a seance group, which I've got my own opinion on those now, but either way, to a seance group. And a friend of hers spoke, and he spoke just one sentence. And he said to her, "Jill, it's not as we have been led to believe." And when she said it, I kind of got the chills, and I thought, oh, she's right. I think it's more marvelous than we can comprehend at this time. And so I just try really not now to be too rigid in my, this is what I think, this is what I believe. Because if you ask me tomorrow, it'll change again. But what I can say to be possibly more helpful is that I believe strongly that this earth experience we have is a marvelous opportunity to grow and expand and to share. I also, like Triona, feel that we are constantly loved and held by others who are able to maintain and sustain us during our work in life. I also look at some of the more human aspects of myself and you and others that may listen, and then the wider community, and then you only put the news on for a second, you think, oh my God, people, you know, rampaging against each other around the world. And I wonder, what is that then? You know, if we are all truly maintained and sustained and made light. But now I realize that so many of us, at least partly in a day or constantly in a lifetime, are sleepwalking. And it takes, you know, the message, the meditation, the epiphany to wake that person up, that they are in fact so much more than just the body, the mind, and the emotion. So that I find really interesting, that people that would seemingly have no spirituality or I don't know, innate goodness to put other people before themselves. It's just not their fault. They've yet to be awoken from their slumber. They were born in the human, and no doubt things happened in human life which you could only imagine to some people, that robs them of their knowingness and a point to remember that they are also a light being incarnate in the world to have an experience. So then I enjoy the idea of jarring and facilitating epiphanies for other people. And I won't keep going because I know the others want to speak too, but I was lucky enough to go to, invited to go to India with a group. It's possibly about a year and a half now. Landed in Delhi. Well, that was a culture shock, as you can imagine. It's all busy and crazy and marvelous. It was lovely. And then we went off to Rishikesh, another place of spiritual meaning and value. And what I noticed there was all the people, lots of them Westerners, of course, in India, looking for something, that we were all searching for something. And possibly we're not so sure of what it's going to be or what it's going to feel like. But what I do think is that it's more incredible than our brains can appreciate. And I will just simply say this. I met a young man in India that had left family behind and was on a pilgrimage, was on a spiritual pilgrimage, an Indian boy. And talking to him was revealing. But, you know, the idea of what he was saying was he was looking to find his God. He was looking to find his light. He was looking for enlightenment. And I don't know how many of us, as the workers, truly put our search for enlightenment before everything else we do. So I wonder also whether as mediums and healers and seers, etc., that we're almost robbed of our own spiritual enlightenment because we're forced, or we have chosen, to keep a foot in both worlds. We maintain space. For if we haven't had to promise or didn't promise that we would, okay, we'll serve, we'll demonstrate, we'll heal, we'll lecture, we'll be on the phone at 3 a.m. with someone who's upset. You know, if we didn't agree to do that, there may be, you know, all 4 of us now would be sat in the mouth of a cave chanting, you know, having this most amazing spiritual epiphany where God speaks through us. I don't know what I'm talking about, but this idea that I think as mediums, healers, etc., we're in a unique position because we are asked and required to dance in the heavens sometime, but also keep our feet firmly on the ground too. And I think it's what my grandma used to say, something like, there's no point being so heavenly that we're no earthly good. And sometimes that's a struggle, maintaining a balance, just maintaining a balance between the worlds. But I suppose the wondrous thing is that the times we are able to sit for self and merge with that other realm, or indeed other realms, it just feels like we're home just for a while. And then, like a sad farewell, we have to return to immerse ourselves in the physical, that we can help others to reach the point of enlightenment that we also crave. That's what I think.
Absolutely lovely. And I love some of the comments popping in saying, Tony's such a hypnotic voice. I could listen to him for 3 days solid.
I'll make everyone fall asleep if you let me, honestly. I will do.
No, isn't that lovely? We'll definitely come back. Sorry, Peter, go on.
I just want to jump in because it's a very interesting point there, Tony. But I just want to ask, like, you know, you talk about, you know, how we might choose or we take a different path of, like, we might sometimes, in a way, get to sacrifice our own path of enlightenment. But couldn't you say that being, and, you know, as you're saying, we connect and we do dance with the realm, which is a wonderful thing. But isn't it through that, could you say that we are also, like, achieving or dipping our toe into a sense of enlightenment that is, you know, no, but it could be for, you know, making it good.
Oh no, I totally think it's a marvelous thing to do, and we gain and grow in so many ways. But I think we're just not, I don't know, we don't permit ourselves to fully go where we could go, because we'd lose that connection to the human, and we wouldn't maybe recognize the huge amount of need in others that might come seek us out. We'd almost become somewhat detached, because we will be in a bubble of our own marvel and not see at all, or be able to empathize with that someone who is lost for a while. Or can I just say something else? And I will shut up, I will. But the idea is, we always assume, I have for years always assumed, that if they come in, they've got to have lost someone who has died, you know, from the spirit. They have to have had a recent bereavement. But that's not the case. I'm increasingly encountering people who have really no one in the other world, although they honor them, but they still seek us out for our knowing and our wisdom. That's my children, and they're printing something off on the printer. But we'll ignore that noise, please. They're seeking something else. They're seeking something else out, but it is the path to themselves. You know, so you might, sometimes I don't recognize it all the way. They sit in desperate need to receive, and I say, oh, I've got your grandmother who's Mary, or whatever. And although it might be even okay, it could even be accurate. But it's not meeting their need. It's not filling them in the way that they feel, and what they're looking for.
I agree.
Effectively, a reconnection with themselves.
Yeah.
I've been saying again and again recently, there's just so much more of a draw from people all over the world about helping them help themselves, or getting them to connect to it themselves, rather than
Absolutely.
Because sometimes, unless you're feeling it, like some people ask me all the time, do I do past life readings? I say, absolutely not. What's the point? You need to feel it. You need to experience something to really have it register on the conscious mind, I feel. So I really love that, Tony, as well. Yeah. Susan?
I'm really, because what you've both said kind of feeds into where I come from, because that seeking for the more is what started me off on my spiritual journey back. And you know, there's very few people have had a perfect life. They might have perfect memories. So, you know, growing up, it wasn't perfect. It was difficult. And it was around the age of 17, I start saying, there has to be more. This can't be it. This can't be the slog forever. And so that was where I started seeking out these things, because I knew I was picking up things, but I didn't know what it was. And coming from Catholic Ireland, that's not a thing that you really openly spoke about. So my journey kept going and going, and it wasn't until my 30s really that I started properly studying. I am a spiritualist now, I'm not a Catholic, but that almost doesn't matter, because it's not religion driven, it's soul driven. It's the heart space, it's the need to assist others that I feel that those of us living the spiritualist life, or the spiritual life, are driven by. And those of us who are mediums and psychics, which is, as Tony said there, that is what I'm finding at the moment. That yes, I know my mammy's there, yes, I know my daddy's there, but what about this? It's that disconnection from the self, which I'm finding people are really wanting to discover and open and have a look at. So is it that people are wanting to look more about themselves, and less about the blaming of others? And like I said, I am a spiritualist, and that's one of my favorite principles, personal responsibility. And my need was to find out there is more, that this can't be it. These feelings I'm getting has to be the signal for more. And through study and research and experience, I have discovered that absolutely yes. And again, I'm a logically minded person most of the time, not all the time, most of the time. So it needs to be a process that I can believe and see and touch. And so that's why I think we all work very hard at doing that and expanding that knowledge. But it is in the enabling. So I found out all of this, and I'm still finding out. I'm like Tony and like yourselves, I'm still finding out new stuff. Perhaps not every day, because sometimes it's just a human day. You know, we have to get on with stuff. So the discovery of new things, but the discovery that everyone can do this blew my mind. So I said, well, I'm not the only one who can do this. And if this has enabled me and helped me heal from a lot of the issues and headspace traumas and emotional traumas. Well, then we can all do this. And the innocence of me, oh, won't the world be a fabulous place? And all of that. So I really started working on that. And now I'm a bit more, I suppose, experienced and less naive, you know, because those of us who are living this spiritual life are not spiritualists, and those who are living a spiritualist life may not be spiritual because they're stuck and rigid, like Tony was stuck in a box and having to be away. I found it very healing and helpful and assistant to me. So my need to share this, or teach this, if you want to say, but share this with others, kept rising and kept rising, and I kept wanting, and the human life kept pulling me back and responsibilities and all that. So I kind of, when you were saying that we decide on our challenges, Triona, I went, well, I won't say exactly what I went, but I went, I'm not sure about that. I'm not sure that I'd have chosen all those challenges. You know, I don't know that coming when I do go back there, because I have 100% belief I'll go back there and go, who let me do that, is what I'll be saying. Who thought that was a great idea?
Or who?
So, yeah, who, come here, you, till I sort it out. And so, but isn't that personal responsibility? Perhaps it was me. And I do believe that spirit world, like Tony said, is here, and we just can't see it. And why can't we see it? Because we're so focused on, I have to pay the gas bill, I have to get to work, I have to do all this, and we don't give that space for moving into the different. And then people are scared of it. I'm not scared of it. And I say to people, if there was something to fear, I wouldn't be doing it, because I ain't that brave. I am a warrior, but I'm not that brave to be. So it is a beautiful experience. And when I review my life here now on this earth at the moment, I plan to be around for a long time, by the way. So I'm not just doing a review and saying goodbye, sayonara, because I look at it, because the pain and hurt and upset and emotion and the trauma and everything that I've lived through has brought me to this point of total belief and not total understanding, because we're always reaching for the more. But my feeling is that we're all about healing, aren't we? We're all about sharing this. We're all about doing this. And I have trained so hard on everything, but I turn out that I'm doing the teaching now, because that's the joy, because I'm sharing, well, you can do this. You can do this. Don't be told by someone else you can't do that because you're not this or you're not that, because it's inherent within us all, the healing capacity. And that's what I feel ultimately is where I'm coming from, is the healing capacity. But then there's, I also have that concern that I'm not going to promote myself as a healer, because then that releases people from their personal responsibility to enable that within. It's a difficult one sometimes, isn't it? That, you know, to be mindful of how we promote this spiritual existence of what we're about and what we're doing. And I know that Estelle Roberts, who's one of the pioneers within spiritualism, really enthused me, really did, because she came from difficult backgrounds. And I am very lucky. I haven't lost someone. I have lost my parents, but not my partner. You know, I mean, he's gone wandering, but he's come back like a cat, you know, but he hasn't disappeared off the planet yet. So, you know, it's just interesting that the different aspects, and the awakening is often occurs in people when they have lost someone very dear to them. That awakening has come. And then there are others, and it doesn't make them special or different, that actually come with the purpose to enable that within others. So enablers, I suppose, is that, I don't know, we'll label them something, shall we? So my thing is to live your life as best you can. And within spiritualism, it suits me. It sits right. I feel it works right. And I have an absolute knowledge that when I finish on this earth, I'm going back to spirit world to say, hold on a moment. I'm not sure about that. I ain't going back there again. Or will I, like Tony? that may change. So I come from the aspect of healing, which I know Triona does, but in a different analytical way Triona does, and the advancement of the mind, the advancement of the soul. And it's just, I find it interesting. And the day I'm not fascinated, it is the day I will stop looking. I just think there's always something new to reach out to. So that would be from where I stand. I can get very passionate about it, can't I? I can go off on one, as they say. But it's worth it. It's something that when it really sits with you, and you can question it as much as you want, but you also need to listen to the answers. You know, sometimes, like you say, you need to sit with yourself and listen to your own answers, your own truth, because that's where the wisdom is. Because not one of us, people talk about how many lives, I've had 300 million lives and I'm here again. Well, you're still on the same journey. So, you know, we're all walking this journey together. No one is better or more special. They might have different talents. So it's about equality and an understanding that we're equal in this journey. Okay, so Tony has more years on me, not physically, obviously, experience-wise, and Pete. So and Triona has a different experience, and again, Peter again has different experiences, but neither one of us are unequal. Do you see? Because I believe, and the four of us here are all about sharing this to enable you to seek what you think isn't there. And I think that's it. That which you are lies within. To enable that. Yeah.
I'm right.
That to
it. Susan, somebody once said to me when I was at a training course in England, they said, why don't you just do mediumship? Is it not enough for you just to do mediumship? And I said, oh, no, it's not. Like, I have to listen to my soul and where my soul wants to guide them. And I'm sure I have a little bit of ADHD there because I get really bored very, very quickly. But I really feel that certain things will resonate with each and everybody. Because, you know, the way you said we all, you know, different aspects and different abilities. Somebody out there in the world will understand mediumship. Somebody out there in the world will understand meditation. Somebody out there in the world will understand a counselor. They'll understand and be drawn to different things, and there's different ways to get through to different people. So I love
different
that.
avenues. Can I just say, and it might be slightly controversial, but there's Susan again, there is a slight mediumship snobbery rising these, and I feel it goes against the soul journey. You have to do it this way. And I'm not talking about the religion of spiritualism. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about people. And they're taking this rigid standpoint that your mediumship has to be. And I don't agree with that at all. At all. And I really hope that begins to change and return to the natural beauty of what mediumship is. And it upsets me. And I mean, I'm not going to go off on a high horse because we all have our journey and all of that. But, you know, it actually goes against it, mediumship snobbery. Those two words ought not to be together. And it just is something that perhaps us as teachers, you know, can enable that widening of awareness to your mediumship can be that and it can be that. But just because yours is that doesn't mean you're right. Do you see? And psychism and psychic, I love my psychic work. So, you know, I just say a tough duty to those who think it shouldn't be mixed with mediumship. I know they're separate things, but a psychic is, I mean, what is mediumship except psychically connecting to those without the body? You know, so those with the body are very much in need of getting some answers or showing how to access that which is within and to move forward and progress. Because isn't that what this is about? We progress from birth to death, to return home, and whether you choose or not. And I'm not sure that I would, and Triona knows this, that past lives, of course, future lives, hey, I don't know, but that we can't be just on this one earth for just this one period of time, you know. But at the same time, to say, well, now I know why I am this in this life because of that past life, and I kind of don't like that. I kind of go, this is the one, you have to fix it. But yeah, to not I suppose get uppity, isn't that the word, about the ability that we all have, you know, to share it.
That's lovely, Susan, completely. And like, as I said, like for me, it's about accessing the information and the healing that's in there. Can I just say that Tim, and hi, Tim, put something so lovely. He just said he agrees meditation, mediumship, connecting to guides and channeling, that they're all connected. They're in separate lines on a motorway, but going in the same direction. Now, I'm actually going to say they're not on separate, in my opinion, completely my own opinion, they're not actually on separate lines. This is what I feel, that all the energy is all the same. We analytically put them in separate lines. But isn't that such a beautiful saying? And Peter, I know you, and you are in such your own little box there as well in Australia, because you're not into dogma, a little bit like me. And I love that, because a little bit wild. How do you interpret what Susan was saying in mediumship, and, you know, the kind of what's expected of people and what's not expected?
Looking at that, but I think the first thing I need to point out is for anybody who's you know, watching and listening, is that coming from down here in the Southern Hemisphere, Australia is obviously a very, very young country, and we don't have the history and the following and like the support system and the belief system that obviously Europe and especially the UK and Ireland have had with the spiritualism, the spiritual churches and so forth like that. It's all very, very young here. So it's a very, very different upbringing. We're slowly getting there, you know, obviously, but I think we're still like got the blinkers on, so to speak, for a lot of us. So that's why, like, for me coming into this, like I was very fortunate, because there was just something inside of me that went looking for this when I was 14. You know, I just happened to find it. It's like, oh, there's spirit. Oh, that's what it's all about. And, you know, it was really bizarre, because I just enjoyed it. It was just a hobby for me. But it was something that was obviously very, very close to my heart at the time. But it's interesting, I bring up that point about, like, you know, that search of enlightenment. And, you know, Susan, you're saying, like, it's about, like, you know, living the best life you possibly can. And like those points exactly for me, as, you know, I've come along, like, my thing is, where I'm coming from, even though, yes, the mediumship ability, and, you know, honestly, it's such a powerful and euphoric and wonderful and humbling experience to be able to connect and heal people through the mediumship. And I do that, but what I'm finding now is, through my own journey with it, and through all the connections that I make and all the other connections I personally make through my meditations and whatever, you know, whether it's through other sessions and mediumship, but taking those, and I'm finding like all these breadcrumbs from different places to try and help people live their best life that they possibly can. And that's why, like, now, like, I'm listening to my own soul, and like, that's why, Tony, I was asking you about, like, you know, it's like I've got my own sense of enlightenment, kind of like, is there something going on here? Because I've got this greater sense of, like, we're missing something. And it's like, mediumship's wonderful, but there is more. And I think Tony kind of said it best when you said a lot of people just haven't had that awakening yet. They haven't woken up. And I think, like, you know, now, like, I'm seeing this, and there's so many people who are wanting it, but again, it's like, where do we go? What do we do? What is this? And whatever else. And that's why, like, I feel like I'm on this journey of taking that soul aspect and the mediumship and side, all that spiritual stuff, and helping people to, like, empower them on their own journey. So that way it's like, here you go. Because I know for myself, it wasn't easy, because I had to do it on my own, because, you know, it was like, there was no spiritual church around the corner. You know, I'm pretty sure even when I was growing up, if probably didn't even exist here yet at the time. But it's like, so you had to kind of take that. But that's the whole thing now, is just really driving that path of living the best life and using this, because there is more. It absolutely all is here. I totally agree 100% that it's a flick of a switch in our mind to go connect into that and let it connect into us. and then we can absolutely, do that. With unfortunately, I hate to say it, actually, Susan, is I agree with you. Even here, I do see it, and I have seen it with the, on the mediumship line of things, of like, this is the way it's, I'm always like, hey, just remember, you are you. Once you've got those, bring yourself into this, because you have a gift in yourself, and bringing that and blending those two, that to me is where the magic really happens, when you can see that. And, I myself personally, I've learned to, refine and work the code, but this works for me, and at the end of the day, my biggest thing is, as long as I get their message across and I get the work done, then I'm happy. And as long as they're happy, I'm happy. And that's the way that I look at it, and that's the way that I do it. So, and it's interesting. Like, I really do find what you have said there, Susan, about people coming and looking for more. I think, Tony, you touched on it a little bit as well. I think people are looking for more of that. And it's hard, because it's like, it's like I get this impression, I don't know about what's happening over that side of the world, but here sometimes I do find they think that their past relative is just going to give them the download, and here's the answer on a sheet printed out for them. Very much like your children printing out in the office there. So it's just like, here it is. It's like, it doesn't quite work like that. So you have to walk them through it. And I think it's, it's just kind of a path that I'm finding. So that's mean I'm on that mission now to obviously, still help and heal, but I find it's more about helping people understand that soul aspect, that spiritual aspect, but empowering their own lives to find and work at themselves, because that's where I see that growth. I'm all about growth in a personal aspect, because I've had so much of it myself. I got bumped onto this road, literally bumped onto this road through the earthquake of Fukushima, which is 10 years ago next year, because I was there for that, I was in it. And my life started this, and this became my life. But I still chose to do it. And to be honest with you, it has its challenges. I'm pretty sure, Tony, over 35 years, you would have had some interesting ones. Trina, you've had, your own fair dose, and Susan yourself as well. But, it's like, but you take that with it. And of course, through some of those challenges comes the best growth. And I think, like with you, Tony, like the more I do this, the more I understand, the more my mind goes like this and it goes like that. And it just, you listen to this and go, oh, I didn't see it that way before. So now I have a different understanding. And it's not necessarily changing the whole belief, but it's almost like a different perspective. And that's what I like. And I think the best part about that is it's endless. We're always going to be learning on that front. And that's I think we've got 2/3 of our brain not used for a reason, because it would be, we need that to comprehend and store other stuff. So it's an interesting journey as it kind of comes along.
Yeah. And just because Triona and I are in the Republic of Ireland, we don't have spiritual churches in the Republic of Ireland. So we always had to travel to Britain to those churches, even though there are people come to Ireland. So even though it's probably because you're in Australia and it's very vast, so probably hopping across to Britain was just around the corner, so we while it's a different vastness, it was still vast, moving from Catholic Ireland to a spiritualist thing, and we had to go to Britain all the time. There's nothing wrong with Britain, Tony. We know that, don't we?
We have our problems.
Yeah, we all have our problems. So it's just interesting that, because when I began, I was on my own, seeking and searching, and I couldn't get anyone to answer these questions. And when you ask them, you become the freaky person, don't you? You become, well, how do you know that? And what's that about? So it's hard being the freaky person as well. And now I relish it. Because I realize I'm not on my own in the freakiness, if we want to say it.
It was the same thing. It's funny when Tony was saying about coming out the other closet. I remember I had to come out of the spiritual closet quite because it was. I think there's a big part in this. I think this is an important thing you might find for anybody who's watching, because you're here for a reason. You obviously enjoy it, but I know there are a lot of people who have these abilities and want to learn more. But there's this oh, what am I supposed to do? What happens if, what are people going to say about me? Look, I can guarantee you all four of us here have been through that journey at some point, and we still do. That doesn't stop.
Yeah.
It honestly doesn't stop. Doesn't matter how many years you do it. There's always going to be someone, like, I don't know how many people. I feel so jealous as a good mate of mine. I hear about all his wonderful stories about the people he sits next to on a plane. He can talk their ear off about this stuff. I seem to get the crappy ones. I'm like, they go, what do you do? And they go, oh, I don't want to speak to you. I'm like, okay, great. All right, there goes that conversation. Headphones on. Let's just watch the movie. But it's like, but there is a point where you do have to own it. And you, because it's accepting a part of yourself. And that came for me. I was, you know, I had to do that when I was 21 and I was in Japan at the time, but it was a breath of fresh air. I didn't have loved ones like my family. I could just go, you know what? Hey guys, nice to meet you. This is me. And I actually got dubbed the nickname of Mystic Pete while I was there because people knew me as this is what I did. But at the same time, it was good because if they didn't like it, they respected it, or we didn't connect. If they did, we connected. So that made my life better and somewhat easier because I was a big part of myself and recognizing it. So if you do have that fear, I do encourage you to look at it and find your tribe, find your circle. You know, you're not alone. That's the biggest thing. It's one of my biggest things. You're not alone. You're not alone in this journey.
Well, Mystic Pete is better than Septic Sue, so you've won that one.
Well, I'll stick with it then, okay?
Yeah. You've won that one.
I remember when I was about 9 and I just said, is this in the now? Is this the now or is this the then? Because it just all merged into everything too. If you're psychic and you see things happening, it can be so confusing for people. You know, absolutely. Tony, are you seeing a difference now in what you want to give to people in mediumship compared to what you might have wanted to do it 10 years ago?
I think I'm more open-minded, possibly, but again, still constrained by your audience. So I find where I am geographically, the demonstration is very different or somewhat different. So if I'm, you know, somewhere in the States and the group are really open, the messages are very different, you know, so they naturally go into life's purpose. Or you mentioned soul's contracts. I almost think it's more of like a soul promise of where they want to go, where they're going to go and who assists them. And sometimes because there's other aspects coming in, the mediumship's stronger. So I think when we're only looking at who's here, what do they look like, what are they doing now, what do they want to say, and it's just the mediumship as we know it as evidential mediumship. Sometimes it's a strain to bring that accurately right from the outset because your recipient may not be there yet. They may not be open to you yet. And sometimes going in more gently and building up a rapport and talking about something of their own heart's need or something of their own need, something of their own life. And then, oh, and by the way, who's Marianne? You know, the mediumship can be stronger when you're not attacking the mediumship for every single recipient in a demonstration. So there's more of I'm going to say the word seduction. I don't know why I'm saying that, but there's more of a seduction, you know, with your recipient. They know what the parts are coming up. But there's almost like, let me take you on this journey for a moment. And the journey sometimes comes with, you know, I see a light around you. Or, you know, you like Pomeranians, don't you? Or whatever it might be. But yeah, so if I'm in an area or a country where they're wide open, the demonstration's very different. If I'm in an area or in a group that's still lovely, but rather more regimented in what they feel they can accept and what they believe you should be saying. And it's already been said earlier, you know, if you go to some places where they've got such a strict interpretation of what can be said, which pretty much only starts with, I've got a woman, I've got a man. Did she, was she, had she? Well, she's here and she loves you, move on. It's so constrained, still brilliant if you need it, oh my God. But if they have more of an open mind and allow you to investigate what their mother does in the other world, who she's now with since she's passed, what does she see of my world? And also, if she's been gone 40 years, what does she know? What has she gleaned in that other world that could help our lives now? So we are restricted by our audience. So in anyone I'm teaching, I always say to them, we as the worker, we're only ever as good as our recipient. For if they don't want you to do it, if they're angry with the world, if they don't believe it but have been made to come by their wife, that sort of thing, you're massively constrained. It's almost like in preparation for the one-to-one, we should spend the hour with them, prepping them up, with a meditation, we're singing some mantras, get them to relax, give them a cup of chamomile tea, just come on, chill out a little bit, all's well, now trust me. But I think, again, this already came up about, the sense that some people may do the work that really don't do the work with a good heart. So if enough people go to people who are really just saying things and they don't care if they're wounding people with that information or not, then people may well be afraid to come and see us. So we almost need to rebrand ourselves as spiritual practitioners, that we have a more of a holistic view of what is the reading and how we might take the human that enters the space, take them on a soul journey, and whichever that encounter that takes, whichever path that takes, as they walk out as somewhat more enlightened. So I like the idea of a more shamanic or holistic approach to our mediumship going forward, which will mean that we sometimes have to educate those who come seek us out, or our audiences, etc. So we help them to evolve. Where at the moment, some people are struggling, because of the rigidity of their mind.
And sometimes the rigidity of the teachings as well. So when like us all, we did have that form of awakening, there has to be the more, and then suddenly you go to the more and it's this size, and your energy knows it's this size, and I suppose that's a point where we have to start. If you're learning to drive a car, 1.1 litre engine is possibly the best choice, not a Ferrari, because if you take the Ferrari, you like the crash or burn it, so slow and steady. And then when I think you're comfortable with the knowledge you have is actually real, I suppose we like to get that confirmation that our thought process, and maybe for people just entering this, or people in the middle, or ourselves, it's okay to question, and it's okay to slow down, and it's okay to speed up, but you need to have your basic understandings of trueness, I suppose, with you. Heal or heal thyself comes to mind, because we all have our own issues as well that we needed to address. So that's part of it too. So sorry, Triona.
No, it's absolutely no. I can't possibly articulate it as well as you, Susan. So that's lovely. I was going to just say, oh no, I don't know if any of you are like me, but if I ever get even remotely tuned in, it's like the worst hangover with the brain fog. But I was going to say, we're only ready for what we can perceive at that time. And I know myself, after my husband died, I wanted him exactly the same in spirit. So Tony, as you said that to me, I just had a kind of awareness as well of how much they grow in spirit, and how much they work, and how much they help us from that place. I know he was bald and he hated being bald, and then it was only about a month after he passed, and he said, he's coming with lots of thick hair, and I was like, absolutely not, because that's not my understanding of him, because that's where I was. And now I'd be open-minded to go, oh, does he have webbed feet? How is he today? Is he an alien? Is he from the cosmos? So like, as a recipient, we can only perceive what we can in that grief at that time as well. Mm-hmm. And then as a medium, just to understand that that's all they can perceive at this time, and not to, but exactly as Tony and Peter were saying as well, that if they are more open-minded, then as a medium, we can explore really interesting places like. Not true. I'm going to just suggest anyone who has questions just to pop it into the Q&A. But Dawn Kenny has a really lovely question on guides. Which one of you wants to answer this? She says, as guides tends to come and go, how important is it to develop a relationship with them? And is it possibly to focus on the main guide, or are they usually permanent? And I have my own opinions on that. I'm going to put it out to one of you who wants to answer that about guides. Are they permanent? Do they go?
I think we'll all have an opinion on that. And I'm awful. I'm just terrible in general. Yes, I'm awful. But for working with my guides, and it was actually Mavis said to me a number of years ago, "You've forgotten you have a spirit team. You don't," because in my life I've learned to be self-sufficient. So in my mediumship, I was being self-sufficient. And the change that has come about, I mean, I'm very aware of guides, very aware, I always have been. But the change that has come about since I've connected deeper to them, saying, I acknowledge you, come in, let's be the team. I believe we have, I suppose, we have one main person watching over who's coming in and out, because during our life, we're going to have different learnings and different education. So it's like in secondary school, you're not going to have one teacher for history that's also going to teach you biology, you know, so different learnings and different knowledges. But I believe they're a collective. It's a collective knowledge, and we as humans need to put it in a form that we can figure and understand. But they're definitely existence. They're definitely my tribe, and they definitely assist me. That's all I know. I don't know all the stuff that I know sometimes. That's what I feel.
I had somebody the other last week asking me, and I just was aware of a guide communicating with me, and I was aware that they were a doctor or had been a doctor in a previous existence. And I said to her, I'm aware that this person communicating in spirit is a guide who's helping you and guiding you is a doctor. So this tells me that you must have wanted to have been a doctor, planned to be a doctor before now. And she had gone to college for several years to actually become a doctor before she dropped out. And it's just to me a real indication that your spirit guides prepare, I do know this, they prepare with you in the spirit realms before you incarnate to help you. And we have free will. We can change our mind. We don't always stick to the plan, but they will stick with us, and they will change, and they will still stick with us and help with us. And they may come and go, but I do feel that they adapt and learn very, very quickly to help us adapt and learn. That's my understanding anyway.
Can I just come in?
Absolutely.
But quite recently, I've been working with a few people, you know, privately mentoring, because I've got the time to do so, which is the first time, so that's great. And we've been looking at the idea that we can move from a past, let's get this right, so we could move from a kind of a reading where we try to link with the guide who presents in that space, and often that's very visual, and so you see the guide come close and you describe the guide, and then it moves quite naturally, at least for me, into how did you know them before. So if, for instance, you've got a guide that was a Roman gladiator or something like that, I feel there's every chance you know them from that life. So they don't just choose to present themselves as the Native American. They don't choose to show themselves as the Mongolian warrior. The chances are they're presenting that as to remind you when we last met. So I think sometimes the readings we do where a guide may come close leads us very beautifully into the life that we shared with them, and then move us again into the soul's promise. Because once you've accessed the guide, and then you're also touching the deeper part of your recipient, what's also available in that is, and some of the ideas of, why have you chosen to return to the earth? What is it that your soul aches to express this time around? So this sort of three-pronged approach, almost, from guide into it moves very naturally. See the difference? It doesn't even, you have to stop and start again. Guides into the life shared and into the soul's promise. And I've only been working with this maybe for a couple of weeks. It came to me as I was mucking out the horses. You'll be glad to hear that, Susan. As my best inspiration. It's weird. Surrounded by horses, and there we go, shoveling away. And I'm thinking all the time about other things, and these downloads hit my mind. How bizarre. I'd like to say it was when I was meditating in a loincloth somewhere on an island, but it didn't come that way. But and I love to work with that over the last couple of weeks, and it's really feeling real. And more importantly, the reaction of the recipient is strange, because, you know, you and I, we may all, you know, Peter, Susan and Triona, we may all do readings, and sometimes people feel emotional, sometimes they hold back, and sometimes they enjoy it, and sometimes they go, oh, that was, thank you very much, educational. But when you read on the soul's level, it's a different feeling, whether that's expressed with tears or laughter or a heavy letting go of, oh my God, because you're reconnecting your recipient, mind, body, soul. You're reconnecting their human to their soul that dwells within. So this is a marriage almost between our higher self and our human self, which is made up of the physical, mental, and emotional bodies. And suddenly there's this fusion where the soul can take precedence for a while. And those kind of readings, I think we're robbed of their development and expression, and what we might do with them tomorrow, because of this very rigid way the reading must take place. So to break free from that at least sometimes, and then yet also honor it completely when it's needed. So when somebody has been breathed, bring in the spirits, bring in the evidence, bring all of that we're trained to do. We know how to do this, and do it really well. But what happens when that same lady or gentleman comes the second or the third time, and we repeat ourselves constantly? It's important to allow our readings to evolve as with our recipients develop themselves.
I see your point on that, Tony. I totally agree. But I think, it comes back to the point that it's, I suppose, as much as like we want to, as, you know, practitioners, you know, wherever we want this to go, but there is still a very heavy restriction based on the client or the recipient, isn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah, of course. It's how far they're willing you to go. But sometimes they're more willing than they think, because their own higher self is aching for you to push it, you know. So it's a bit of a tug of war, where they'll, you know, I've literally had clients before that say, oh, hold on, hang on, oh, go on then. And so they're having to wait for their humor to catch up with where their heart's pulling them. It's weird, isn't it? I do see that.
Yeah, but it's I feel also with that soul connection, if we want to call it that, we shall, because it makes it easier to understand. The person you're working with and on behalf of, say, you see me, you know me, and they feel somewhat validated, or actually I do exist, because if they're coming to us, the practitioners, well, they're looking for that something, and to be recognized. Yes, this is true of you, and it's such a beautiful journey to take. Absolutely beautiful journey to take, ourselves personally and on behalf of others. Yeah.
There's a really interesting question here, and it's going to be a little bit controversial. Peter, I'll go to you with it if you're happy to answer and open up. So this question on because you know my opinion on this the whole topic about demons and attachments and spirit attachments and Ouija boards. And the question from Susan was, are Ouija boards dangerous? Are they not dangerous? What's the consensus?
Not me.
But as I lead into that, I'll also include to say the concept of spirit attachments and demons, because it does affect a lot of people from connecting into this place when they carry so much fear. I think that's worth answering. Peter, what's your thoughts?
Well, let's start with the first one, the easy one part of that, which is the Ouija board side of things. And, you know, I was, you know, looking back on it, I didn't realize until I wrote my first book, when I first connected with spirit, I actually ended up creating my own Ouija board, even though I had no idea what they were when I was 14 years of age. So in terms of that, it's just another tool, in my opinion. And realistically, like, you know, we could really take a great standpoint or a analogy, metaphor to our lovely American audiences, like, you know, where we talk about the guns, and it's like, you know, oh, we control the guns because guns kill people. Don't know, people kill people. It's like, you know, they use it. So it's a tool like anything else. So, you know, of course, however you're using it's going to depend on the outcome. So if you've got the right intention, you've got the right mind, it's going to work okay. you go the other way, of course, it's going to be different. You know, the other thing too is like when it comes to like these spirit attachments or the demons or the negative spirits, the interesting part is I look at how many connections I have made, you know, over the time I've been doing this. And yes, I've come across some like somewhat, you know, negative or I'd say more very angry or frustrated spirits. But you know what I found is because that's the way they were with you in their life. But then as soon as I just slow them down and I listen to them, like I'd be listening to an angry driver or person here in the real world, all of a sudden they soften up and you see that part that's actually hurting and they get a chance to heal as well. So there's a big part of like, so I've really never come across that side of it. Now, I'm not saying they're not, you know, but if they are there, it's minuscule. I haven't had any, you know, the amount of times like when people say, oh, but I open myself up, I feel like I'm being attacked. It's like, well, I open myself up, like it's here. So it's a big different thing. So I'm not a massive believer in that particular thing. And I also know that when it comes to this stuff, like when we are connecting, even on just a normal level, I know and I believe that our mind and our mindset is a very, very powerful thing. The one thing that I have to always drum into people, whether it be at a demonstration or in a private reading, they say, I'm having troubles with this. I'm like, because that's the way your mind is geared. And that is what your spirit or your spirit team or whatever's around you has to work with. So you need to start giving them more to work with in a positive sense. You'll start seeing positive. So a lot of it is up here because you've got to remember when that connection happens, it is here to here. So if you haven't got it right here, it's going to be a bit of a struggle. So you know that's where my standpoint on it, because I believe, like, you know, you have that, you've got to have that belief, you've got to have that trust, and you know there's some very big words that I think unfortunately don't get taught enough. You know, from my spiritual and mediumship development point of view, is just keep believing and keep that trust and belief and that strength in terms of that.
Tony,
I
what's
agree.
your thoughts? Yeah.
This comes up a lot, and depending on where you are. So, you know, ladies, you'd hear this a lot in Ireland, you know, where, you know, in development, people are concerned for this kind of thing. But it's in an area where church has had a hold on people, you see.
Mm-hmm.
And church is responsible for a lot of man-made, I didn't even want to say philosophy really, but decisions made to keep the general public down. So, you know, this runs through religion really, where, you know, the power goes to the priest, the power goes to the rabbi, the power goes to somebody else and not the general public. So it's almost don't do that because. And so these things are created in the main by man to keep us from seeking and searching. And I think one of the things that will absolutely scupper someone's real soul's progress and development, that they may sit in meditation to contemplate, to sing mantras on the most, you know, amazing places and be free to feel the wind in their face and feel the universe and the God source that's within that, to come and have these amazing experiences, is this little thing at the back of their mind that says, what if I encounter a baddie? That kind of thing. And so it's a cruel concept in many ways, because it's there and designed, maybe just by man for always, to keep us down and not to look too far. Because it's literally like, don't go into the woods. There may be a fabled bogeyman, so no one goes into the woods to detect the fact that within the woods is amazing flora and fauna, etc., and things to encounter because of fear. And I think that's what it's about. So I would suggest, you know, during the time I've been working, you know, I've encountered a number of things, and I look back now and realize it's more hysteria from people than anything else. And so I would absolutely implore anyone just to simply emit light, bask in the light, and allow that light to remind them of the power that they are, which sounds all fluffy, but I do believe that fluff. Absolutely. So, you know, try your best to re-educate yourself, and try desperately not to fall into this trap of there's 99% goodies and 1% baddies, so be careful. It's not like normal life. Do you know, what's that other thing people always say, like, it's not the dead you want to worry about, it's the living.
Yeah.
And I think that's
true.
smart.
Absolutely. And this concept, Tony, just to following on from that, of do the loved ones stay around more in this kind of this vibrational realm, or I kind of have an idea of the question myself, but it's just popped in from somebody, or sorry, let me rephrase that. I definitely need another cup of coffee. So why do certain people who pass to spirit stay more in our kind of atmosphere or vibration compared to others who might move on quicker? Not move on, but you know what I mean.
I'll say
sorry,
really,
yeah.
sorry. I think they hang back, or they say about us when it's needed, and I don't think it in any way hampers their own progression or enjoyment of that new world. But I think they need to visit us more when they're needed. And so, I've met people before that have lost a partner, and they'll in mediumship, and then they'll say, okay, he's come through. Now tell him to go. I'm fine. I don't want him to hang, and they're spiritually strong. They can visit me when he can, and they'll tell you this out loud. And other people, literally, they can't move forward in life. And so they hold that person so dear to them. And there's nothing wrong with that either. So I just think some souls need to support more, and when that support is not so needed, then I think there's more of a journey that they begin to enjoy themselves. But it's exactly the same as in human life. If we had a loved one who needed us to be around from Monday to Friday because they were struggling, we'd be there from Monday to Friday. And that's what we would do our very best. But when they say, look, I'm going to be fine, I'll see you Sunday, off you go. You go off and you get on with your own world. I think it's as simple as that.
Lovely. And I remember the lovely Mavis Patilla once said, it's a healing of both worlds. And it's just like this aha moment for me. And I thought, they don't just like pass and they're miraculously, in this heavenly place of complete understanding. I mean, it can be healing for them. So what if they want to stay around their loved ones for a little bit while longer, especially if it's a quick death, just until they, understand that they're in a different way of thinking and feeling.
Yeah. I think from my aspect, I think the importance is choice. It's the free will is always there, whether we're in our bodies or out of our bodies, our human self. Free will always will be there, because it can't just exist in the human life. So if like Tony said, and I think that's a lovely way to view it, Tony. But I also just kind of want to say, there's no such thing as a trapped soul. It's a choice they are making. So and like being the light, prayer and positive intention always exudes positive light. And if the spirit person chooses to do something else, they will. So but it is teachings, isn't it? It's the knowledge, it's the perception, and knowledge dispels fear. But what knowledge I have now I didn't have 20 years ago, and that's the same for everyone. So,
I'll just chime in on this. Sorry, so I want to follow up.
Yeah.
I just want to ask you a quick question. We can all, because the one thing is, because we've obviously all got the very similar belief in this, but knowing that there's no such thing as that trapped soul and it's their choice and whatever else, what's your take and opinion on, like, I'm finding a new trend with the lovely term of rescue medium, obviously, where they seek out these more troubled or more slightly, earthbound souls.
Well, like Triona said, the healing goes between the two worlds. And it's about perspective or perception. I personally wouldn't be in a rescue circle, because I feel that's the human need as opposed to the spirit need, because I feel that prayer and positive intention is all that's needed. And because my belief is that is the choice, that their spirit is staying around people who may need them, as Tony said. Those rescue circles have been around for a long, long time, and I don't feel they're harmful. I don't feel it's harmful because they're sending out the light. It's again, its belief systems don't have to be exactly the same for the outcomes to be the same. Personally, I wouldn't be in one, but are they doing harm? Perhaps if they said, well, your dad, someone said to me, look, your daddy's trapped between the two worlds. And the Catholic Ireland used to say that there was limbo, and one of the popes got rid of it. How can you just get rid of something that's been taught for centuries? Because it's a knowledge that it doesn't exist. It was to teach people to keep them under control, as Tony said. They're in my control. If you're not a good person, you're going to limbo. That doesn't exist anymore. I don't believe it ever existed, but we were trained to think that way. But are they doing harm? I don't believe so, except to say to me, my daddy's stuck in limbo. That's upsetting for the person who would hear that.
And you know, this concept of time, it's not linear. So for them, it might be like a click of a finger. To us, it might be a year or 2 years, but it's a conscious thought. It's for them, it's just a moment, and just give them the moment. That's what I feel. If they want to, like, just leave them. Just I'm in so many different groups and constantly hearing about they need to move on quicker and attachments, and with respect, it's just give them a moment. You know, it's my opinion anyway. Time is not linear.
I would say I think that rescue circles are dangerous. I do. I think they're you may have some very sincere people in a rescue circle, and it's hysteria. I've seen a few before. It's all about the fear. And, you know, I can enjoy the fear too. I once was invited to one of these ghost busting things in a haunted castle. I did a couple of those. It's, you know, I like the idea of, ooh. You know, I get that. And of course, all that stuff is not actually spirit at all. It's actually just, it's emotion caught in a space. And so memories, you're connecting with memories of extreme positivity or extreme negativity are easier, or extreme positive negativity are easier to feel in a space. But I've sat or rather been aware of rescue circles in the past, and I just think what a terrible waste of time in that belief system that people are trapped. I can't believe it for a second. And I think when people are elevated to that world of light and that world of progression, that the only thing that's possibly going to be trapped is the memory of that person. So we could go in as energy workers and clear the memories of space, you know, for somebody else to inhabit the space. But I really don't like the concept of rescue circles. And it's so 1930s. I mean, literally, you're going back. It's going back so far when people are so rigid in their belief. So I would say, for goodness sakes, no, I'd rather that be turned into a meditation circle and healing for the world circle. It's just based in darkness, and I don't think it holds any part in a progressive spiritual evolution.
Absolutely. And it's so disempowering, isn't it, to everyone when it's like somebody does something bad. Or actually, I heard a story last week where somebody wouldn't quit smoking. Yes, it's because the attachment is a smoker. And I was just like mind-blowingly blown away for another cup of coffee.
So that's all again about perception and what knowledge they have, you know. So, you know,
yeah, but it's disempowering to themselves.
I would be very respectful to the person, and I suppose share my opinion based on my knowledge. But we all have to go through those processes, don't we?
If I cop that, that's when I reach for another spirit and go, right, cheers.
Not my fault. Yeah.
I know we're finishing up.
Okay, have the Prosecco on hand.
Yeah,
I know we're finishing up shortly, Peter. Is there, as we just touch in with everyone here today, what would you like to just finally say to everyone?
No, honestly, I was just wanted to point out, like, it is nice to share this knowledge and have a great open conversation. Hopefully that you have, learned something. Someone did comment there going, thank you so much. This has been so informative. And I think that was one of the pivotal points of this conversation, Tony brought up. It's like, we've got to educate, people with this. And it's a big, I tell you what, educating people it's like, I'm a teacher by trade. So it's it comes in the thing, but it's a big part of the process, and it's a long journey. It's not one, it'll be one that will continue on well and truly when we're all four of us have passed. But it is just, honestly, have that belief. And I just want to say the same thing is like, listen to yourself, have that belief and trust in yourself, your team that's around you, whether you're acquainted with your guides or not, they're all there. And let's mean it, and seek out, the groups that you resonate with to find that support for yourself, because I believe it's a big thing. And of course, just remember, you're not alone. And of course, a big shout out to a lot of the PAL family here. So that's my Pearls of Wisdom group, which I've set up for this purpose. So thank you for joining tonight, because I know it's a bit of a late one for people in Southern Australia. It's an hour ahead, and a couple of people in New Zealand, 3 hours extra ahead of me. So they're hitting the midnight. So, but I just want to say thanks for everyone for joining, and make sure you seek it out. Okay. It's there, trust, belief, and honestly, live your life to feel it, absolutely feel in the soul, and go for it. Go for gold.
That's good.
Absolutely. Great. Thank you. I just want to say thank you to Peter, Susan, and Tony for coming. I know time is precious. I know you're all busy. Thank you so much. Just to reiterate everything that Peter said, your gut and your intuition is the best guide for you. Don't ignore it. It will always lead you to the right place and the right people who can help you. And if we just choose not to live in fear, if we choose to embrace the unknown, how exciting is that? And you're not alone. And we're all here for you, and your family's here for you, and your guides are here for you. What a really beautiful place and space to be in. Susan, do you have any thoughts you want to finish with?
Yeah, I don't know, empty head. Sometimes you just need an empty head to allow it to be filled with something that's more. Don't always get stuck on what you think you know. Just empty your head and allow that to evolve, because our soul will rise then, and it will inform us of what we need to ask. There's no stupid questions. Stupid answers, no stupid questions. And that's what I was learning. I think it was Vi Kipling said that to me many years ago, when I was trying to download all the information at one time. It's not possible, because it's too much. Just go for something and begin to ask the questions and seek correct answers. Google will give you answers. They may not always be the correct ones for you. So if it doesn't fit, don't carry it. But I would just say, if you have a question within yourself, go seek the answer, because the answers are there, and you may not have to go outside your sitting room to do it, because the answers are within. And then you can check in with others. See, is that a collaboration? Is this something? And don't worry about being odd or a freak or whatever people might think of you, because, all of us here, I think I'm the oldest here, but all of us here have survived it, because we believe in the truth and the spirit world.
Lovely. And Tony, what's your final thoughts?
Also, my final thoughts is, I think it really just starts truly with just being kind. Being kind to yourself and kind to others, and kindness expressed in everything you do, which sounds a bit like I'm not saying anything at all, but if you can start there, it's not a bad place at all. And learning to put other people's need before yourself, at least sometimes. And trust that we are, in a very positive way, on the brink of something quite marvelous. It's all yet to be discovered. So in no way try to close your mind when you're just beginning. It is much more than we have been led to believe. And so on that, enjoy it, connect with each other, connect with other people, stay friendly with each other too, because sometimes the pathway can be lonely. And hearing Peter, you just said, 14, you know, only one doing it. I can only imagine that was tough. And so, you know, supporting other people that need your support, but reaching out to, and this again, something that Peter said, you know, but you have to out yourself a little bit and say, look, this is who I am. And unless we're brave enough to do that, how will those other people like us know who to contact? You know, we have to be out there to help other people that are like us. And it's a growing thing. You know, and the more I watch, you know, the kids watching Harry Potter, I'm convinced that's our world. There's so much in that. You know, we have to be, sometimes having a badge that says, jolly well, we do go to Hogwarts. Come ask me a question. We have to be out there for other wizarding folks.
Yeah. Very good.
Absolutely lovely. And the butterbeer, I don't know if anyone's been to Orlando. We went to Christmas, and you can actually go into Harry Potter World, Tony, and have the butterbeer. Did you go? It's absolutely mind-blowingly cool. It's so real. A world within worlds, within worlds, within worlds. Thank you everyone for joining. Absolute pleasure. Thank you, Peter. Peter is even though I've an IT background, Peter is absolutely the tech behind all of this. And apparently the more spiritual awareness I become, the less techie I become. So thank you, Peter, for organizing everything. You're incredible, and your time and patience. Lovely. Thank you, everyone. Such a wonder. Susan, incredible hearing from you as always. And Tony, always, I agree. Just listen to you forever and ever. Thank you. So lovely seeing everyone and all the participants today. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. Nice to meet you, Peter.
Yes, all nice to see you again, mate. Yes. So have a wonderful day.
Yeah, thank you very much.
There you go.
Okay, I can smell breakfast.